And we're back with Perspectives. I'm Juju Chang in New York, and we're talking with Josh Waitzkin about his book, The Art of Learning, A Journey in the Pursuit of Excellence. Thanks again for being here, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
You discovered a whole new world and a whole new love, which was martial arts. How did you stumble into it?
Well, at first I was looking for something meditative. I was looking to get away from the pressures of the chess world where I was feeling like I had the world on my shoulders. And I fell into Taoist and Buddhist philosophy, and then I discovered Tai Chi Chuan, which is the martial embodiment of Taoist philosophy. And at first it was just meditation, moving meditation. I went into the studio on 23rd Street with this wonderful teacher named William C.C. Chin, and he had an amazing energy about him. I felt something profound in him, but most importantly for me was being a beginner and embracing the idea of being a beginner and being away from anyone knowing anything about me. I didn't tell them about the film or about my chess career. And so I could just learn. And I experienced again what I had experienced in the beginning of my chess career, which was this state of free-flowing learning without anything blocking my process. And ultimately that became fascinating to me, and I thought about, well, how can we maintain this beginner's mind, this unstoppable learning curve when we're very good at something?
But clearly you don't do anything half-baked, because your intensity and your competitive nature, clearly you have these multiple national and world championship titles. Marc Messier, the famous skater, said that you expose the sort of mental side of success, whether it's chess or martial arts. Explain that for me if you can.
Well, you know, one way that I think about the martial arts is I do all this physical training, all this incredibly intense technical work, but also physical endurance work. But for me, it's just about getting the body out of the way so my mind can play the game. So, you know, then you're in the martial arts ring, you're competing against these huge bruisers. But for me, again, my mind is just expressing itself through the arts. And I think that ultimately that's what makes you succeed. Having a mental side, having a deep understanding of what you're doing so you can express your personal nuance. Because some people are going to be naturally aggressive people, some people are going to be more conservative, cautious people, and that's okay. In all of these pursuits, it's all right to have whatever style you want to bring to the game. What's most important is that you bring yourself to that pursuit without blocking it.
You've said the term free-flowing learning. I want you to expand on that a little bit. You talk a little bit about using your intuition, using your emotions in the game. It sounds very Obi-Wan Kenobi. Break it down for me if you can.
Well, in terms of the emotions, a lot of people have this idea that they want to disconnect themselves from their emotions. They want to, if they're feeling fear, they want to not be afraid. If they're feeling, you know, excited, they want to bring themselves out of the excitement. You know, I believe that under world-class pressure, in whatever you're doing, whether you're competing in a world championship in the martial arts or in chess or in a business situation, whatever it is, if there's something inorganic about your learning process, if you've swept something under the rug, if you haven't taken something on about yourself, then it's going to come out under pressure. It's going to ultimately cut your legs out from under you. So what I've worked with, you know, from competing against dirty chess players who would kick me under the table in world championships.
Come on.
I've seen it all, believe me. In world championships, having guys target your neck, your nose, your groin, your knees, everything illegal, you know, you get angry. But ultimately the idea isn't so much to ignore or block out your emotions, but learn how to channel them into intensity.
You talk about sort of making smaller circles, if you will, in training and breaking down the complexities. How important is that when you get that deeply ingrained in any discipline?
I think it's very important. A lot of people think in the martial arts, for example, that what wins is the fancy technique. You know, the secret, mysterious crouching tiger, hidden dragon thing where they can pluck out the eyeball or run up the walls.
You mean that's not it?
That's not it.
Darn, okay.
But amazing things can be done in the martial arts, but it comes from deep refinement of sometimes very simple ideas. The making smaller circles one is one that applies to chess, but on the martial arts you can think about a very large movement. You know, think about a movement like this, a very large movement. Ultimately you can take that kind of movement and condense it. So you're taking your body mechanics and you're getting them so tight, so incredibly potent that you can do a lot with very little. And this applies to anything. And ultimately, you know, when you see martial artists doing something that other people, you know, it feels mystical, like it's energetic. They're just condensed things down very, very deeply. It's an incremental process. There's nothing mystical there.
You talk about the illusion of the mystical, meaning that you break down these details and make it seem mystical when in fact it's just really studying hard.
Well, also I had this experience when I was competing in the super heavyweight division of a big tournament. And I was 170 pounds, my opponent was 230 pounds. I often competed up in weight class for the challenge to work on some things. And about 45 seconds to go in the match, my right hand shattered. And I felt it happen. He was a bit of a dirty player, very hard, and he was just a crazy exchange, and I just felt this shattering here, and I had this surge of heat through my hand, and then time slowed down in my mind. And on the video, if you watch it, his hands are coming at me like bullets. But in my mind, they were like clouds, and I was able to win very easily with one hand. And this became fascinating to me. What was going on here?
What was going on here?
Well, I mean, people have had these fight or flight type of reactions when a car crash or falling downstairs where they see time slow down. I had the experience of time slowing down, and my perception sped up. But then my question became, how can you do this at will without something terrible happening to you, an injury or something like that? And I began to work on it, and I began to work on this kind of systematic training. Basically, and I describe it in depth in my book, but doing this kind of technical work in circuits of techniques where I could throw information from my conscious mind over into my unconscious mind, so that my conscious could focus on very, very little, but I could do that very deeply. So you can imagine if I'm looking at this much information, I can do it in big font or in more frames than my opponent. So ultimately, you can play in frames the other person isn't aware of.
It sounds very mystical to me. Now, I'm almost afraid to ask this question, but it'll be my final one. What's next for you, Josh?
Well, the funny thing is that, you know, I don't like being on top. It's not in my...
Why win when you can be a beginner, right?
Well, I like to strive for the top. I love the climb. And after winning the 2004 World Championships, I felt this need to be a beginner again. And I kind of moved from Tai Chi into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, another martial art, which is systematic, technical groundworking. And my goal, secretly, I guess not so much anymore, is to aim for the World Championship in 2010, 2011. So I'm in the middle of my third mountain right now, and it's exciting to be climbing like that again.
My bets are on you, Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insights in the book, and we look forward to reading it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great talk.
Appreciate your time. And we want to thank you for joining us on Perspectives, where we go behind the scenes on stories you should know about. I'm Juju Chang in New York, and we hope you'll join us next time. For now, though, stick with us on ABC News Now, where there's lots more straight ahead.